Some nights, I still can't escape the chaos of my mind. A biological mystery, a family torn apart, and the question, did I make the right choice? Some nights, I still lie awake, the ceiling fan a hypnotic blur, wondering if I'm trapped in a nightmare. Ashley's twins. My son and, well, another man's son. It's a sentence that defies logic, a biological anomaly that's now the relentless reality of my life. And the question of whether I did the right thing bringing her back continues to gnaw at the back of my mind. Let me rewind to the before. Before the gym, before the parties, before Chad. Ashley and I met at a bookstore. I reached for a worn copy of 100 Years of Solitude, and she did the same. Our hands brushed. Corny, I know. But the connection was immediate. We spent hours discussing Marquez, shared dreams of traveling South America, and swapped awkward childhood stories. She was warm, witty, and possessed an incredible laugh that could illuminate any room. We married 2 years later, in a small ceremony by the lake where we had our first picnic. Those early years were idyllic. Comfortable, happy, a love that felt like a warm blanket on a cold day. I genuinely believed we were soulmates. Then 2022 hit. Her job at the law firm became unbearable. The long hours, the demanding clients, the constant pressure to bill crushed her. She came home exhausted, withdrawn, barely able to eat. Our conversations dwindled, replaced by strained silences. She lost her spark, the light in her eyes dimmed. I tried everything. Weekend getaways, romantic dinners, simply holding her hand and listening. But nothing seemed to break through the darkness. That's when I suggested the gym. I'd found solace in exercise after my startup failed, leaving me in debt and battling depression. The gym provided structure, accomplishment, a physical outlet for my frustration. I hoped it could do the same for her. She resisted at first, citing lack of time and energy. But I persisted, gently nudging, reminding her of her strength. Eventually, she agreed. We started going together a few times a week. I'd spot her on the weights, cheer her on when she wanted to quit, try to make it fun. It worked. Slowly, she transformed. Her body changed, of course. She lost weight, gained muscle, her clothes fit differently, but the real change was internal. She stood taller, smiled more, her eyes regained their sparkle. It was like watching her come back to life. But somewhere along the line, that transformation took a sinister turn. The confidence morphed into arrogance. The happiness became a mask. Gym friends turned into late-night outings, clubbing, parties where I wasn't welcome. Work events became a constant excuse for her absence. I'd come home to an empty house, the silence deafening, trying to convince myself everything was okay. Then came the flirting. I saw it myself at a colleague's birthday party. The way she laughed too loudly at his jokes, touched his arm too casually, looked at him with an almost predatory gleam. It was subtle, but unmistakable. It was desire, attraction, someone no longer interested in what she had at home. That night, the confrontation was ugly. Accusations flew, tears streamed down her face, and the truth spilled out like poison. She admitted she'd been unhappy for a long time, felt trapped in our marriage, needed to experience more. She said she'd settled for me. That hit hard. I wasn't good enough. The divorce was swift and brutal. She moved out, leaving a void I couldn't fill. For months, I existed in a fog of grief and disbelief. I couldn't understand how the woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew, could become so cold. Then came the call. The "I made a mistake" call. It shattered my fragile recovery and plunged me deeper into confusion. Meeting her at the cafe felt like stepping into an alternate reality. She looked haggard, worn, a ghost of her former self. The confidence was gone, replaced by fear. "I'm pregnant," she whispered. And then the bombshell. Twins. And then the atomic bomb. Different fathers. Heteropaternal superfecundation. A term I'd never heard, a freak occurrence defying logic. 2 eggs, released simultaneously, fertilized by sperm from 2 different men within a short window. A 1 in a million chance, and it had happened to me. To us. She begged me to forgive her, to take her back, to help her raise the children. She claimed Chad, the other man, vanished upon learning of the pregnancy. That she was alone, scared, and had no one else. She spun a tale of regret, painting herself as a victim of her own bad choices. And a part of me, the part that still loved her, wanted to believe her. But another part, the part burned so badly, screamed at me to run. To protect myself. After a week of torment, I let her move in. It was driven by guilt, obligation, and a sliver of hope that maybe, just maybe, we could salvage something. And that's where I was. Living with Ashley, the mother of my unborn son and another man's child. A situation so bizarre, so complicated, so emotionally charged that it felt ripped from a soap opera. The early days were an awkward dance. Ashley was on her best behavior, hyper-attentive, constantly apologizing, anticipating my every need. She cooked my favorite meals, left notes around the apartment, showered me with affection. It was suffocating, a constant reminder of what we had lost and what we could never have again. I tried to reciprocate, to be supportive. But it was hard. The anger simmered beneath the surface. I constantly scrutinized her, searching for deception. Was she truly remorseful, or was this an act? The hardest part was the other child. Knowing she'd been intimate with another man, carrying his offspring, filled me with betrayal. I compared the babies in my mind. Would my son be like me? Would he have my eyes? What about the other child? Would he resemble Chad? Would Ashley love him more? These thoughts consumed me, poisoning my mind, eroding my ability to connect with her. I pulled away, becoming cold, distant. I worked late, avoiding her. I retreated into my own world, escaping the reality of my life. Ashley noticed, of course. She'd try to talk, to reach out, but I'd push her away. I couldn't bear to look at her, to touch her, to be in the same room. The physical attraction was gone, replaced by disgust and pity. The prenatal appointments were excruciating. We sat in the waiting room, surrounded by happy couples, pretending to be one. The ultrasound images, the 2 heartbeats, were a constant reminder of our complicated reality. One day, during an anatomy scan, the doctor pointed out the 2 fetuses. "They're both healthy," she said, smiling. "You must be so excited." I forced a smile, but inside, I was crumbling. Excited? I was terrified. Overwhelmed. Resentful? A walking contradiction. After the appointment, Ashley and I walked home in silence. The tension was palpable. Finally, she stopped. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. "No," I said, my voice barely audible. "I don't know if I'll ever be okay." Tears welled in her eyes. "I know I've hurt you. I'm so sorry. But I need you. The babies need you." I looked at her, at the tears, and felt a flicker of compassion. She was scared, vulnerable, dependent on me. And despite everything, I still cared. "I'm here," I said. "I'm here for the babies?" But was I really? Was I capable of loving both equally? Could I overcome my resentment and build a stable family? Or was I prolonging the inevitable, setting myself up for more heartbreak? These questions plagued me as her pregnancy progressed. Then, things took an unexpected turn. I came home to find Ashley on the couch, pale and drawn. She clutched her stomach, her breathing labored. I think I'm in labor," she gasped. Panic surged through me. The babies weren't due for weeks. This was too early. I called 911, my hands shaking. Within minutes, the paramedics arrived. They quickly assessed Ashley and loaded her into the ambulance. I jumped in beside her, my heart pounding. The ride to the hospital was a blur. Ashley moaned in pain. I held her hand, trying to reassure her, but I was terrified. At the hospital, Ashley was rushed into the delivery room. The doctors and nurses swarmed around her, preparing for an emergency C-section. I paced anxiously, waiting for news. Time seemed to stand still. Finally, a doctor emerged. He wore a tired smile. "Congratulations," he said. "You're the father of 2 healthy baby boys." Relief washed over me. They were okay. Ashley was okay. But then, the doctor's smile faded. There's something you need to know," he said gravely. My heart sank. "What now?" "The babies. They have different blood types. And one of them, he has a rare genetic marker not present in either you or Ashley." I stared, struggling to comprehend. "What are you saying?" I asked, my voice trembling. "I'm saying, there's a chance that one of the babies isn't yours," he said. The world tilted. Everything I thought I knew was thrown into question. I stumbled back, my legs weak. It couldn't be true. Ashley had assured me that Chad was out of the picture, that I was the father of both. But now I didn't know what to believe. I demanded a paternity test. Ashley, still weak, protested weakly. She swore she hadn't been with anyone else, but I was adamant. I needed to know, no matter how painful. The results came back a few days later. The doctor was right. One of the twins, the one with the rare genetic marker, was not mine. He was Chad's son. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. All the anger, resentment, confusion came flooding back. I confronted Ashley, demanding an explanation. She broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. She admitted she had lied, that she had seen Chad a few times after we had supposedly reconciled. She claimed it was a mistake, a moment of weakness, that she regretted it deeply. But I couldn't forgive her. Not this time. This was too much. Too much betrayal, deception, pain. I told her to leave. I couldn't bear to be in the same room, to look at her, to breathe the same air. She begged me to reconsider, to think of the babies. But my mind was made up. I was done. She packed her bags and left, taking Chad's son with her. I watched them go, my heart aching with a pain I had never known. And then, I was alone. Alone with my son, the one who was truly mine. I looked down at him, at his tiny face, at his innocent eyes, and felt a surge of love. He was my son, my flesh and blood. He was the only good thing to come out of this mess. But even as I held him close, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. A piece of my heart, a part of my soul, had been ripped away. I was a father, yes. But I was also a victim. A victim of betrayal, deception, circumstance. And I didn't know how to move forward. How to raise my son in a world that had become so tainted, so corrupt, so full of pain. The weeks that followed were a blur of sleepless nights, diaper changes, and feedings. I was functioning on autopilot, going through the motions of fatherhood without truly feeling anything. My friends and family tried to be supportive, but they couldn't understand. They couldn't comprehend the depth of my pain, the complexity of my situation. I felt isolated, alone, trapped in a nightmare I couldn't escape. One day, as I sat in the park with my son, watching him sleep peacefully in his stroller, I saw Ashley. She sat on a bench across the way, holding Chad's son. Our eyes met. For a moment, we just stared at each other, neither moving, neither speaking. Then, she stood up and walked over. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice barely audible. I hesitated, then nodded. We sat on a nearby bench, facing each other. The two babies were asleep, oblivious to the tension between us. "I know I've hurt you," Ashley said, her voice trembling. "And I'm so sorry. I don't expect you to forgive me. But I want you to know that I never meant to cause you this much pain." I looked at her, at the sadness in her eyes, and felt a flicker of sympathy. She was hurting too. She had made mistakes, terrible mistakes, but she was still a human being. "I don't know what to say," I said, my voice flat. "I know," she said. "But I want you to know that I'm going to be a good mother to both of these boys. And I want you to be a part of their lives." I stared at her, incredulous. "You want me to be a part of Chad's son's life?" I asked. "Yes," she said. "He's still your son's brother. And they deserve to know each other. They deserve to have a relationship." I thought about it for a moment. She was right. The boys were brothers, regardless of their parentage. And they deserved to have a chance to connect, to bond, to be a family. "Okay," I said. "I'll do it." Ashley smiled, a genuine smile I hadn't seen in a long time. "Thank you," she said. "That means a lot to me." We sat in silence for a few minutes, watching the babies sleep. Then, Ashley stood up. "I should go," she said. "But I'll call you soon. We can arrange a playdate." I nodded. "Okay." She turned and walked away, leaving me alone with my son. As I watched her go, I realized that maybe, just maybe, there was hope for the future. Maybe we could find a way to co-parent these children, to create a loving and supportive environment for them, despite the pain and betrayal of the past. It wouldn't be easy. It would require forgiveness, understanding, and a willingness to put the children's needs above our own. But it was possible. And for the sake of my son, and for the sake of his brother, I was willing to try. The playdate was awkward. Utterly, excruciatingly awkward. Ashley arrived at the park with Chad's son, Liam, a miniature version of his father, same dark hair, same mischievous glint in his eyes. My son, Noah, was fair-haired, blue-eyed, a mirror image of my own childhood photos. Seeing them side by side, the physical differences so stark, was a brutal reminder of everything that had happened. Ashley tried to make conversation, but her forced cheerfulness only amplified the tension. I kept my responses short and polite, focusing on Noah, making sure he was comfortable, protected. He was fascinated by Liam, reaching out to touch his face, gurgling with delight. Liam, in turn, seemed wary, clinging to Ashley's leg, his eyes darting between me and his mother. We spent an hour at the park, the silence punctuated by the occasional baby babble and the chirping of birds. It felt like an eternity. As Ashley was leaving, she turned to me, her eyes filled with a mixture of hope and apprehension. "So, we'll do this again?" she asked. I hesitated. "Yeah," I said. "For the boys." But as I watched her walk away, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was playing a dangerous game. Getting involved in Ashley's life again, even for the sake of the children, was like playing with fire. I knew I was vulnerable, that my feelings for her, however buried, could easily resurface. And I knew that she was still capable of hurting me, of manipulating me, of shattering my world all over again. Over the next few months, the playdates became a regular occurrence. We met at the park, at the zoo, at children's museums. Gradually, the awkwardness faded, replaced by a fragile sense of normalcy. Noah and Liam began to bond, playing together, sharing toys, developing a brotherly affection. Ashley and I too started to relax around each other. We found ourselves laughing at the boys' antics, sharing parenting tips, and even reminiscing about the good old days. It was tempting to believe that we could actually make this work, that we could create a functional co-parenting relationship, that we could even become friends again. But then Chad reappeared. It happened on a Saturday afternoon. Ashley and I were at the park with the boys when a man approached us. He was tall, muscular, with dark hair and a confident swagger. It was Chad. He introduced himself to me, his eyes cold and assessing. He then turned to Ashley, his voice softening. "Hey," he said. "It's been a while?" Ashley looked flustered, her cheeks flushed. She introduced him to the boys, telling them that he was Liam's daddy. Liam's face lit up. He ran to Chad, wrapping his arms around his legs. Chad picked him up, showering him with kisses. I watched the scene unfold, my stomach churning with jealousy and resentment. Chad was everything I wasn't. Confident, charismatic, physically imposing. He was the kind of man that women like Ashley were drawn to. Chad spent the next hour playing with Liam, ignoring me completely. Ashley, too, seemed to be completely absorbed in Chad's presence, laughing at his jokes, hanging on his every word. I felt like an outsider, an intruder in their little family unit. I wanted to leave, to run away, to escape the pain of watching them together. But I couldn't. I had to stay, for Noah, for Liam, for the sake of maintaining some semblance of normalcy. As Chad was leaving, he turned to me, his eyes filled with a mixture of contempt and pity. "So," he said, "you're the guy who's been playing house with my baby mama." My fists clenched. "She's not your baby mama," I said, my voice tight. "She's the mother of my son." Chad laughed. "Yeah, well, she's the mother of my son too. And you know what they say. Once you go black." He trailed off, winking. I lunged at him, my anger boiling over. But Ashley stepped between us, pushing me back. "Stop it," she shouted. "Both of you, this is not the time or the place." Chad smirked. "Whatever," he said. "Just remember, I'm always around. And I'll always be Liam's father." He turned and walked away, leaving me seething with rage and humiliation. That night, Ashley and I had a massive fight. I accused her of leading Chad on, of undermining my role as a father, of disrespecting me. She denied everything, claiming that Chad's appearance was a surprise, that she had no control over his actions. But I didn't believe her. I knew that she was still drawn to Chad, that she still harbored feelings for him. And I knew that as long as Chad was in the picture, our fragile co-parenting relationship was doomed to fail. The next few weeks were a nightmare. Chad started showing up at the park, at the zoo, at the children's museums, always trying to insert himself into Ashley and Liam's lives. He'd shower Liam with gifts, take them on outings, and generally try to act like the perfect father. I, meanwhile, felt increasingly marginalized, excluded, and resentful. I tried to compete with Chad, to win Ashley's approval, to prove that I was the better man. But it was a losing battle. Ashley, torn between Chad and me, became increasingly erratic and unpredictable. She'd shower me with affection one day, then turn cold and distant the next. She'd agree to my parenting suggestions one minute, then dismiss them the next. I was losing my mind. The stress of co-parenting with Ashley and Chad was taking a toll on my mental and emotional health. I was constantly anxious, irritable, and exhausted. I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat, and I couldn't focus on anything. I knew I needed to do something, to take control of the situation before it completely destroyed me. But I didn't know what to do. Then, I received a phone call from a woman named Sarah. Sarah was Chad's girlfriend. Or, rather, his ex-girlfriend. She had found my number online and decided to reach out to me. She told me that Chad was a serial cheater, that he had been seeing other women throughout their entire relationship. She said that he was manipulative, dishonest, and completely incapable of commitment. She warned me that Ashley was just another notch on Chad's belt, that he would eventually tire of her and move on to someone else. She urged me to protect myself, to protect my son, and to get as far away from Chad and Ashley as possible. Sarah's words confirmed my worst fears. I knew that Ashley was making a mistake, that she was being used and manipulated by Chad. But I also knew that I couldn't save her. She had to save herself. I decided to take Sarah's advice. I decided to protect myself and my son. I decided to cut Ashley and Chad out of our lives completely. It was the hardest decision I had ever made. But I knew it was the right one. I filed for sole custody of Noah. Ashley fought me at first, but eventually she relented. She knew that she couldn't provide Noah with the stable and secure environment he needed, not with Chad constantly in and out of her life. I moved to a new apartment, far away from Ashley and Chad. I enrolled Noah in a new daycare, where he could make new friends and start fresh. It was a difficult transition. Noah missed Liam, and I missed Ashley, in a strange, twisted way. But we adjusted. We learned to live without them. We started to heal. I focused on my career, my friends, and my hobbies. I started dating again, cautiously, tentatively. I met some nice women, but none of them could compare to Ashley. I knew that I would never truly get over her. She would always be a part of my life, a reminder of the pain and betrayal I had endured. But I also knew that I couldn't let her define me. I couldn't let her ruin my life. I had to move on, to create a new future for myself and my son. One day, about a year after I had cut Ashley out of my life, I received a letter in the mail. It was from her. She told me that she had left Chad. She had finally realized that he was no good for her, that he was incapable of loving her or committing to her. She said that she was sorry for everything she had done, for all the pain she had caused me. She asked for my forgiveness, not for herself, but for the sake of Noah and Liam. She said that she wanted to be a part of their lives again, that she wanted to be a good mother to them both. I read the letter, my heart aching with a mixture of sadness and compassion. I knew that Ashley was telling the truth. I could feel it in my gut. But I also knew that I couldn't let her back into my life. Not yet. I needed more time to heal, to rebuild my trust, to protect myself from further pain. I wrote her back, telling her that I appreciated her letter, that I forgave her, but that I needed more time. I said that I would consider letting her back into Noah's life, but only if she could prove that she had changed, that she was committed to being a good mother. I didn't know if Ashley would ever be a part of my life again. But I was willing to give her a chance. For the sake of my son, and for the sake of his brother. 5 years later, Noah is 6 years old now, a bright, energetic, and loving little boy. He's the center of my world. I've done my best to raise him on my own, with the help of my friends and family. It hasn't been easy, but it's been worth it. He's the best thing that's ever happened to me. Ashley has been a consistent presence in Noah's life for the past few years. She's proven herself to be a responsible and loving mother. She's never tried to interfere with my parenting decisions, and she's always been respectful of my boundaries. Noah and Liam are best friends. They see each other every weekend, and they talk on the phone every night. They're as close as any two brothers could be, despite their different parentage. I've even started to warm up to Ashley again. We're not friends, not exactly. But we're civil, respectful, and even cordial. We can even laugh together sometimes, without the tension and awkwardness of the past. I've started dating again, too. I met a wonderful woman named Emily. She's kind, intelligent, and compassionate. She's also a single mother, so she understands the challenges of raising a child on your own. Emily has been incredibly supportive of my relationship with Ashley and the boys. She's even encouraged me to consider letting Ashley back into my life more fully. One day, Emily and I were at the park with Noah and her daughter Lily. Ashley and Liam were there too. The 4 children were playing together, laughing and giggling. I looked at Ashley, at the peaceful expression on her face, and felt a wave of compassion wash over me. She had come a long way. She had made mistakes, terrible mistakes, but she had learned from them. She had grown as a person. She had become a good mother. I turned to Emily, my heart filled with gratitude. She had helped me to see the good in Ashley, to forgive her, and to move on from the past. I said, my voice trembling. I think I'm ready to let Ashley back into my life. Emily smiled. I know you are, she said. I walked over to Ashley, taking her hand in mine. Ashley, I said. I forgive you. And I want you to be a part of our lives again. Not just for the sake of the boys, but for my sake too. Ashley's eyes filled with tears. She wrapped her arms around me, hugging me tightly. Thank you, she said, her voice choked with emotion. Thank you so much. We stood there, holding each other, as the children played around us. The sun was shining, the birds were singing, and the world felt right again. I knew that the road ahead would still be challenging. There would still be obstacles to overcome, wounds to heal. But I also knew that we could do it. We could create a loving and supportive family for our children, despite the pain and betrayal of the past. Because in the end, love is stronger than hate. Forgiveness is more powerful than resentment. And family is the most important thing of all. Years passed, and the blended family evolved into something I never thought possible. Emily and I eventually married, and Lily became another beloved member of our chaotic crew. Ashley, after a long journey of self-discovery, found happiness with a kind and stable man named Ben. Ben embraced Liam wholeheartedly, becoming the father figure he had always needed. The holidays were particularly special, a whirlwind of laughter, mismatched decorations, and the comforting aroma of multiple cuisines blending in the kitchen. We navigated birthdays, graduations, and heartbreaks together, always putting the children's needs first. One evening, as I watched Noah and Liam, now teenagers, arguing good-naturedly over a video game, I felt a profound sense of peace. They were brothers, connected by blood and by a shared history, their bond unbreakable. Ashley caught my eye and smiled, a genuine, heartfelt smile that spoke volumes. We had both made mistakes, terrible mistakes, but we had learned from them. We had grown as people. We had created something beautiful out of the ashes of our past. Later that night, as Emily and I sat on the porch, watching the stars, she turned to me, her eyes filled with love. "You know," she said, "this is what family is all about. Not perfection, but love. Not blood, but connection. Not the absence of pain, but the courage to heal." I nodded, my heart overflowing with gratitude. I had lost so much, but I had also gained so much more. I had learned the true meaning of love, forgiveness, and family. And as I looked up at the stars, I knew that everything was going to be all right. We had faced the impossible, and we had emerged stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. Our family was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, a beacon of hope in a world often filled with darkness. The story of Ashley's twins was a story of pain and betrayal, but it was also a story of love and redemption. A story that proved that even in the face of the most unimaginable challenges, hope can still prevail. The wounds may scar, but love finds a way.